Welcome back to Low Bow Spark Podcast. I am doing the first group episode I have done in, I don't know, Leo, maybe 6 months. I'm nervous about this. I am kind of it worried me all day because I don't understand the topic. I don't understand the topic of generational trauma as a result of unrecognized neurodivergence. Because all I had was support generationally. So I'm going to turn this over to Mechi because she is the one that brought up this topic. Your show, explain it.
My show. Okay, I'm taking over.
You are.
No, okay. Well, I brought this subject because, first of all, I saw a TikTok video and I was like, this resonates a lot with me. I never thought of it because I was already aware of generational trauma, but being someone who was diagnosed with ADHD at 30 years old, well, almost 30, it was like I've been my entire life undiagnosed, and then of course I noticed my mom had it, and it was all of a sudden it was like, oh my god, all of this makes so much sense, not just about me but also about my mom. And many of the things that we go through is things that we learn at home. So imagine, you grow up with a parent who you're sure 100% they have ADHD now that you look back on it, and then, of course, it all makes sense. So I don't know where you want me to start. I have a list of the things that I think affected me in case that's something anyone wants to hear. But I think it's
Yes.
important to talk about it because it is something cool to talk about it in therapy, for example, because ADHD is not just, dealing with the ADHD symptoms. It's also the things that you learned at home, which probably your parents were not diagnosed if you had a late diagnosis. And I'm sure many of you here, because we know ADHD also runs in your blood, many of us maybe have some things that are like, oh, my mom or my dad or my uncle, my grandma, my grandpa, so, and things that maybe looking back, and if you start to study that or think about it, you realize that maybe this is not me. Maybe this is something I learned. It might be my ADHD, but this is something that is, outside of me. This is something I learned from whoever in my family. So I thought it was an interesting topic to talk about because I'm sure I'm not the only one who has these issues.
It is. Let me cut in here for just 1 second. How many of y'all were diagnosed after the age of 18?
Yep.
Self-discovered. Yeah.
All of us.
Yeah, except for me.
Yeah.
And so that's where the awkwardness comes in here in this episode. It's just like
I have another question. How many of you think one of your parents or anyone else in your family has ADHD?
For sure.
And
Undiagnosed?
I'm adopted, so it's more of a.
But it's okay. But you know what? If you were brought up by people who you think have ADHD, it's the same because we're not talking about generational in the sense it's like it's just in the blood. We're talking what you learned at home. So if you think maybe one of your mom or your dad or someone else in your family had it, and you had a lot of contact with them, then you might have something that is not actually yours.
That is exactly the explanation I needed, Mechi, to navigate this episode. I want to call on Waba first. What is your experience with this?
I'm not sure. I've thought about this question ever since I saw it. And initially I was like, oh yeah, it's just like my whole story. Because I grew up in a household with a hoarder mother and an enabling father. I just like not wanting to confront her. Fairly certain my dad's some flavor of autistic ADHD, and I don't know what's going on with my mom entirely, other than the predominant narcissistic personality disorder. But just generational trauma in general due to neurodivergence, never mind just ADHD, is so prevalent in my whole story of just like growing up with like expectations, I guess, of just like you have to do what I say or else kind of thing. I mean, I think can be just like generic abusive household stuff though is the problem. So I'm not really sure how to answer this question, to be honest with you. Maybe absent
too.
father because the fact he was so just hyper focused on his work all the time. So that probably had an effect, I'm sure. You know, growing up in a horror house is not exactly the nicest thing in the world because it just gets normalized for you that like you're gonna live in a mess and it's okay and that's fine. And you know, I never got taught how to clean anything or even myself, actually. I think I've shared this before. I never knew how to properly take a shower and clean my own fucking body until I was like 23.
Wow. Waba, thank you for opening up like that again. I mean, like that. This, this is gonna make me cry again after this because this is so easily fixable to me, so easily fixable. But until we get to that easily fixable part, Beth, what do you have to say
Okay. I was just gonna
about this?
say that with I mean, my parents were great parents. They were really loving and things like that. But and it's a mixture of me having undiagnosed ADHD, which I thought I had ADHD since I was 7, but back in the the 70s, well, that was a guy thing. Girls just didn't have it, you know.
Correct.
It's a lot of confusion. I think my dad had ADHD. He had a drinking problem when I was a child, and I think that was stemmed from that, you know. And so mum, but he was a loving dad, you know. He wasn't violent, he wasn't anything like that. He just would mess up, you know. And mum, you know, dad could work different jobs and things like that, but mum would sort of hold the house together. But I also think mum had her own issues, you know. So it was a loving, dysfunctional family. And then, of course, there's me trying to deal with things. And I couldn't, mum would try and teach me stuff, but she didn't really so much because she was busy with working. My older sister was the one that would do things when she wasn't around. So I was the youngest and sort of left to do my own thing. And honestly, she tried to teach me stuff. I probably wouldn't have been able to take it in anyway, you know. And I also think that we talk about the generational trauma and we look at the way like parents, grandparents, and other relatives behave. We also have to take into account what generation they're from and how
Yes.
their society makes people behave in a certain way. Like dad was to a lot of people he was very serious, you know, but he was actually he was a funny man. He was kind, he was, you know, but he had this sort of like distance to him, you know, and like he didn't show a huge amount of emotion and things like that. There's a joke when he got my mum passed away, so he got remarried and he's now since deceased. But there's wedding photos of mum and dad, and then my stepmom and dad. And my dad has this look like he's really not having a good time. And the first saying, why aren't you smiling? And I thought, no, Dad is smiling. You know, it's like normally, you know, when you're not smiling, there's your mouth straight across, and then there's this tiny curve, and that's Dad smiling. You know.
Can I interrupt you just for one split second?
Sure.
I'm trying to get better at not interrupting because Jesus, I interrupt.
No, interrupt, fine.
So my dad is from North Dakota, the land of ice skating and ice hockey and all that. My mom is from the depths of the South. And when I go to give my dad a hug, it's one of those soft hugs, you know, like it's one of those, I like you, son. I'm like, no, you fucking love me. Okay. I love you. You love me. Say it. He goes, we didn't, we don't, how did we do this? You know, kind of thing. And I'm like, you just hug the person and say, I love you. That's how we do this. But anyways, I understand that situation of it's someone from a different part and they don't understand the other side of it.
Yeah. Okay, I should clarify something. When I said Dad's distant, it was probably with words. Dad was a hugger. He had no problem physically hugging people, but he would keep things. He could give you advice, but of his own feelings and things like that. I think that's probably where the drinking came from, especially he lost his dad when he was really young. His mum had 4 boys, came over from Ireland to England, and so and there's big drinking culture, and that's just I think it was a coping mechanism for him. He did stop drinking when I was in my 20s, and yeah, so he had a sober life longer than he had his life of drinking, which would have been,
Awesome. Beth,
so
thank
that was
you so
really
much.
great. Yeah,
Leo,
no worries.
what do we got on this topic? I'm sorry, I gotta go this way this way. It's different on my screen.
Faking me out here. I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, no, I think this is certainly an interesting question. And I see it from a couple different levels, right? So, when I was writing the email for it, I referenced, my dad forgetting, or, having a dad that forgot you at practice, which is literally a thing that happened. But as I told Lo about, he only forgot me once. He forgot my sisters multiple times. There used to be a time when I was like, how could he forget us? And like, now I'm just like, yeah, I kind of get it. I think a lot of stuff happens like that, but then kind of the flip side of that is found that parents tend to overcompensate a bit on trying to make sure that like you don't have the same flaws they do, and just kind of going like ape shit in some sense over like different rules and things like that they set, because that's kind of how they figured out how to cope with everything. But then kind of even on a wider family scale, one of the issues that our family's dealt with quite a bit are there's been alcoholism and like drug issues. And I think a lot of that stems from ADHD to some extent. And like, I know for at least a couple of the cousins that I lost, like I could definitely see that being a potential influence. And, it's one of those that kind of just a couple decisions, and next thing you know, it's that's kind of how it ends. And yeah, I think like people figured out how to cope because they didn't have access to the same kind of information we have, right? They don't have access to the same the same level of information, and so people coped with it how they could. You kind of think about it like we're only a few generations away from where we probably would have been burned at a stake.
True.
Like it really wasn't that long ago,
that's very
right?
True.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think it's certainly all there. And I think one of the things to recognize is that like it's helpful to see it. I don't think a lot of people have a ton of interest in like being diagnosed. Like if they've gotten to the point where they figured out how to cope with it, and like they just have their quirks or whatever, like
so true.
It's like, don't mess with it. They've got a system. As weird as it sounds, like they've been working on that for like 45, 50 years, and don't mess with it. But yeah, like it's interesting to see how this is starting to change, because hopefully like having information, we're able to kind of break more cycles. And I certainly try with like my kids, like it's really like big for me to try to just name things. When I see the patterns happening, and I'm not 100% on that because I am human, but it's like, yeah, I do find myself like getting frustrated for like my kids doing stuff that like I literally do all the time. It's like,
yes.
Oh
yeah,
God
Right.
that's
damn it,
part of it,
Leo. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. It's
right?
like the whole thing of the ADHD brain is like, you should go to the
Mm.
doctor. You have this.
Also, something else. You also get mad at your parents for doing something you do too.
Yeah, it goes both ways.
That see God, I love this. I love this. It's basically like one friend came to me yesterday actually and was like, I don't feel right. I'm like, so go to the fucking doctor. And then they're like, well, why don't you go to the doctor when you don't feel right? I'm like, because I hate the fucking doctor. so like it's this situation where it's like, I'm gonna advise you how to do something, but God damn it, I need to do it myself too. Like that's unbelievable. RJ, how we doing, buddy? This is awesome.
Good.
This is a recorded thing, so awesome.
I saw
Andre
they
Agassi
get to watch me cook.
has just joined us. This
Yay.
is fantastic. So, Leo, can you explain to RJ what the topic is? And you explained it well. I don't. Again, it's not my wheelhouse, so I'm going to leave it to y'all to help.
Yeah, so generational trauma as a result of undiagnosed or unrecognized neurodivergence. Yeah, I think just the patterns of behavior and where coping mechanisms take over and show themselves down generational lines, because it's when your parents are struggling to cope with something and kind of trying really hard to make sure that like you don't have that same problem, it does kind of leave some marks in different ways. Has a lot of links to substance dependence and all sorts of things like that, and I know that's something that like I was saying that I've seen.
So it's basically RJ, your opinion of that or whatnot. And Mechi brought this up, which is fantastic because I need to learn now. So I'm learning from all five of you about what this means.
I have a question.
Yeah, ask away.
Is discovery regression, can that be kind of part of this topic a little bit? Or is that kind of a different topic entirely?
Discovery regression?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
I need a Webster's on that. Again, I am not the most educated person. I am trying my best.
So probably not something you've experienced, but usually when people
you never
kind
know.
of late discover that they have ADHD or autism, their minds, because of that information, kind of like break a bit, and they end up feeling that they've regressed in some ways, because they're like, shit, I was getting along just fine without knowing I was ADHD or autistic, and now that I know, I can't do anything right anymore.
Okay,
I feel extra autistic, extra ADHD.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a grief thing. It's like a grief.
Yeah, it is kind of a grief.
Something you have,
but it's also like a different way to process it.
Yeah.
And it
There's
comes
a lot to
across
that.
differently too. I mean, for example, my boyfriend has ADHD too, and when he learned he had it, he became terribly depressed. And for me, it was super liberating. Like, oh, now everything makes sense.
Yeah.
What is it? Can I swear?
Yeah.
Can I swear here?
Can you swear on this podcast?
You seem to be doing a pretty good job at it.
You can't fucking swear.
No,
Do you know how many times Up has been on this podcast?
I'm going to embrace it.
Yes,
so I think it's very different for people, and what was saying really resonated with me with the hoarding stuff. My mom was like that, but to me it is crazy because I think about this. I hope my mom's not listening to this podcast because she loves you, Lobo. And Mom, if you're listening, I love you, but I just gotta be honest.
Fuck you, Mom. I said it for you. You're welcome.
Nah, she's a cool mom. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure she has
Get
ADHD.
fucked.
Your sister also sure she has ADHD. She's been listening to your podcast. Nobody's just like, I think I have ADHD, Mitty. And I'm like, fuck no, really? But she's a hoarder too. She doesn't clean much. And I'm the complete opposite to the point that I'm almost like a little OCD. I mean, I don't have OCD, but my doctor told me that I have an OCD personality, like I have traits.
Yeah.
And I think it ties back to that. It's like, I don't want to become my mom. And I don't want to have like, a mess in my home. Then she also has well, she's overweight. I always struggled with my weight for various reasons. We all know ADHD, the dopamine, if you don't take your meds, you want to eat all day. I never understood what I wanted to eat all day, but it's also something that I learned at home. Like if something like really bad is happening, we in my case, thank goodness it wasn't they didn't have a problem with maybe drinking or drug abuse, but my mom did have a problem with food. And if something went wrong, eat. If something goes right,
Yeah.
eat. If something is going terribly wrong, eat. I'm gonna give you an example. Something crazy that happened that I still remember to this day. I was 7 years old. A guy who was escaping the police went into my home. She looked at me, and he looked at me, he looked at my mom, he was like, or I'm gonna kill you. My mom went crazy, like blank. She made 2 sandwiches for me. She made 2 sandwiches for me. What's going on? What was that?
That's
And then
probably
she hid me. She hid me under the bed. She took a gun and she was like, Mechi, if something happens, if you hear anything, don't come out. Just stay right there. But when you think of I mean, think about it. There's a guy in your home with a gun telling you he's going to kill you. That time we didn't have a telephone. We lived in the middle of nowhere. So she couldn't even call the police. The guy was threatening me, her daughter, and my mom's like, Mama Bear. She took the time to make 2 sandwiches for me before going out or trying to fix the situation. Right. Crazy. And at this time, like every time I have a problem, I try to fix it with food, and I eat a lot, and then I have like weight issues. But it's crazy how that comes across. Like then for what was like, he had this issue with the hoarding. For me, it was like the complete opposite. I throw everything away, even the things that I care about, I throw them away. I'm like Marie Kondo on steroids. And it's crazy because I mean, it can like backfire and you can go the opposite, or you can keep the same thing you learned from your dad or your mom who didn't know they have ADHD. And another thing that I know that in my case, for example, that is affecting me to this day is the social anxiety or how I interact with people. So my mom is a person who lashes out very easily. Now I understand it's because of the ADHD. She basically has not many friends. She, like, the entire family doesn't talk to her. And my approach to people because of that is like, well, I'm not going to say anything. So I never stand out for myself because I feel like if I do that, like my mom did, but she took it to the extreme, then I'm gonna, I'm not gonna have any more friends, or I'm gonna run out of like, friends, or I don't know, I'm just gonna have problems with people because I learned that. And it's something that and then you understand when you grow older and you understand the ADHD and that, like, this is not me, this is something I learned. It's a learned behavior.
And that's the whole point, though, of discussing these things together is you don't have no friends. Okay. Nothing that anything anyone says here is going to make us less love you. Like that's the whole concept of this. So you always have a place here, no matter what. RJ, you have not spoken yet. Let's go. What you got, man?
First, Mechi, are you saying that you have a brain that hyperfixates on things? No way.
What's this? Never heard of that.
Yeah, this is a great topic because it's obviously one that has been close. I guess it's not obvious for people who this is their first episode, but I have two little boys who are 4 and 5, and part of my journey has been being the wall of generational cycles and trauma and everything in them. And I can see it back somewhat of someone in my family has it, right? But that doesn't excuse behavior. And like you're saying, where that is absolutely it's you learn what you see, and that doesn't just have to do with families. It can do with friends, it can do with society, it can do with a lot of different areas. It's so easy to think that you are breaking the generational cycle and fall into actually into keeping them going.
This is a perfect time to take a break in this episode because, let's be honest, these episodes are long. They're probably too long. I should probably edit them, shouldn't I? I'm being told I shouldn't. However, Low Bow Spark does not exist without these supporters. And I'm talking about the Patreon people. Okay? Thank you, Leo Guinan. Thank you, Kirk Hofstrom. Thank you, Casey Elliott. Thank you, Sarah Delano. Thank you, Justin Allingham. Thank you, Blushing Crafter. Thank you, Jamie Young. And thank you, Beth Jones. Without y'all, it doesn't exist. I would also like to thank the 9 anonymous, actually, shit, sorry, my bad, 10 anonymous supporters of this podcast. It is completely fine that you are anonymous because, honestly, I cuss a lot. So there it is. Thank you to the 10 anonymous supporters of this podcast. Without you, this does not happen. And I love you. Wow.
My kids were young. I don't know, 2 and 3, I think, and we were getting ready to leave. And I'm very kind to my kids. I am, there for them emotionally. I allow them to cry. They're boys, and I allow them to cry. I know. And we were getting ready to leave to go somewhere, and my oldest was yelling at me because he didn't want to go. And so he was telling me, "You're mean, Daddy. You're mean." And for me to hear that as a father, when he doesn't understand what mean is, and having lived through what mean really is, I responded with, "You don't know what mean is. If, I'll show you what mean is if you keep it up." And my now ex-wife looked at me and goes, "Why are you getting so mad at a 3-year-old? Are you jealous of, the childhood you're giving him?" And at first, my reaction, I'm like, "No, how dare you?" But upon reflection, it's like, I was about to repeat that cycle that I went through because he wasn't grateful for something that he never experienced. That is mean to him. And that's how good of a childhood that I am giving my kids, that being mean is we have to go somewhere, so we have to get ready. Being mean is we are leaving a park to go home and eat dinner. Being mean is I'm holding space for them and I'm making them have some consequences for, let's say they're not cleaning up after themselves. They're old enough, they know how to clean up their table. They have responsibilities. Some of the consequences, they lose tablet time. Extreme is they get time out. But when those happen, I don't just take it and walk away from them and say, "This is what you get." I sit there and I talk to them and I explain to them, this is the reason that this is happening. This is why. And I give them a hug and I tell them, I will always be here for you. And that just because I am giving you a consequence doesn't mean that I'm not here, because I am. And along with that, I was going to say something and I think I just lost it. But
it's fine.
It's just
it's what happens.
Right. Every time they ask for a hug or anything, like I give it to them.
Yeah.
And this doesn't exclude me from having my ADHD outburst. This morning we were doing homework and it got really heated. Both kids were crying. And I'm like, we need to get this done so we can get going, because they wanted smoothies in the morning. So we had to go get smoothies. And I ended up, flat fist punching the table, like, no, we need to do this. And immediately when I did that, instead of like being like, I'm justified, we need to do this, it's just like, all right, daddy's taking a deep breath. Daddy's frustrated because we're trying to do this together and it's not working so well. I'm sorry that I yelled, and apologizing and showing them that I'm human and I have emotions so that they can see that it's okay for them to have emotions. And yeah, like I am jealous of the childhood they have. I am jealous of the space that I hold for them. But the reason that I can hold that space is because they make me a better person so that I can hold space for them.
Fantastic.
And I don't want to fall into those. It's so easy, a flip of a switch. You're giving your children the childhood that you didn't have. And in one moment, when it gets overwhelming, you can do what you said you would never do, or you could accidentally, because it's not on purpose, accidentally keep it going. And
I love this.
Knowing that I have ADHD, learning the symptoms, it allows me to be more patient with them because I can see it in myself. I can see it in my childhood. I can see it growing up. Whereas, the knowledge wasn't there. The information wasn't there. It wasn't attainable like it is now. And that's something that I can do for them, is I can learn so that I can be better for them too.
RJ, that was fantastic. Go ahead, Beth. I know you.
I think also we can tend to forget that children have limited vocabulary and limited ways to explain themselves. You're being mean because I'm doing this thing and now I have to leave it. My son, when he was younger, would say something would happen. He'd say, "I hate you," and I know he didn't hate me. I said, Do you really hate me, or do you hate the situation that's happened? Or if somebody else had upset him, is it the person or the situation? And it was,
that's what I was going to say, Beth, too. You jogged my memory. So my kids will sometimes say, "I don't like you, Daddy," and I don't respond with, "You have to." I respond with, "That's okay. That's not a part of the agreement. The agreement was, I'm going to love you, but you don't have to like me. That's not a part of this. So you can keep doing what you're doing and not like me, and that's okay. But I'm going to keep doing what I can for you." And they kind of take a step back. Okay.
So to keep this within the hour time frame that we need to keep this within, because I'm a big believer in ADHD, people will watch something up to a certain point. And that's, I'm sorry, we can go on after this about this topic, but we are going straight to the end right now. And I'm going to call on Waba. What are you most proud of today?
Today.
I like the turkey, by the way. That's
thank
fantastic.
you. Thank you. You'll see it at the end of the month on stream when I play a bunch of scary games. I laughed at a bunch of trolls while I banned them when they came into my stream, and
fuck yes,
it was hilarious. They just kept coming in. I'm just like, goodbye, you're banned. Goodbye, you're banned. I banned them from Discord as well, as they were saying shit in my Discord, being like, "Hey, I'm racist. Can you let me in?" I'm like, no.
Yeah, that's not going to happen on your stream. So can you explain to us what you stream about? Because I don't think some people here have seen you stream or whatnot. What you stream about, what you're most proud of in that area, and how you go about it, because it's fucking awesome. I loved it.
I don't know. I stream a lot of things, but mostly it's just a space that anyone can come in, talk about their day, talk about their problems, get some advice or peer support, advice with a grain of salt. I'm very quick fire with some of my advice sometimes when I'm like in a particularly spicy mood. But it all comes from the heart and it all comes from a good place. And I do really want to help and care for people.
Low Bow's Spark has started a fundraising effort for Crisis Text Line. We have a goal of $19 per episode, as $19 supports one person in their time of absolute crisis with their mental health. If you would like to donate through our fundraiser titled Lauren's Infinity, the link is listed in the episode's description. Lauren was my wife's best friend and loved by all who came into contact with her.
And, basically show them that their way of thinking isn't the only way to think, and that it's okay to process things in different ways, and that, life ain't so bad, and there are other people that understand and get what they've gone through. So
Awesome.
Mental health talk, please.
And I know that you wanted to say a lot more about this topic on trauma. If I'll give you 2 minutes here to if you want it.
What else do you want me to say?
No, anything you want to say on trauma. You mentioned your mom and whatnot, and that's so. I get that.
Generational trauma is okay. So generational trauma is real, and more often than not, that you might catch yourself perpetuating it in your own life and relationships. And it's really important that you catch yourself, like RJ caught himself with his kids, that could have ended in a very bad situation and could have just repeated the cycle. So keep yourself on your toes, keep yourself accountable, and make sure you know what you're saying and the impact of what you're saying, especially to your kids, especially to your loved ones. Because even if you might not understand, even if you or a loved one who abused you might not remember that situation, you, the person who was abused, is always going to remember how you felt. Even if you don't remember the exact words, you're always going to remember how you felt. And that goes for the people that you talk down to as well.
Can we get a round of applause for that shit? Because that was fucking amazing. That's exactly. God damn it, Waba. Unbelievable.
You put me on the spot.
I did, but you fucking succeeded with that spot. Like, you did it so well. Fuck. Again, up all night because of the motivation. Beth, what are you most proud of today?
I'm here.
Yes. I will say, you had said that you would never join a group episode. You did today. That's awesome.
My fear of joining a group episode was saying the wrong thing.
You can never say the wrong thing, because if anyone wants anything, look, if any of you want any of this edited, I'll edit it out. Like, I'm not going to put you in a position that doesn't make you look awesome. I'm not going to do that. That's not this podcast. Look at the turkey here. We got what?
None of us can top that.
No, we can't.
Sorry.
But Beth, I'm proud of you too. That is amazing. Mechi, what do we got? What are you most proud of today?
Today I'm proud that I'm owning my ADHD more and more in my business. I know I talk a lot about business. I may be a little obsessed with that, but I love the fact that I have a business I can be open about the issues, and I'm saying this between quotation marks, that I have. So I basically closed a client that is like a version of BetterHelp. It's not BetterHelp, but it's very similar because of my ADHD. I was like, I have ADHD. I have these mental health issue and this and that, and this and that. So I'm basically your target audience. By the way, I'm a copywriter. That's why. And I closed this client being fucking honest about who I am, what I bring to the table. And the thing is, I mean, as a entrepreneur, something that I want to do, and this is the 5th client I open up about my ADHD, and I'm super proud of one of my friends who's also a copywriter who is owning that too, and she's talking about her ADHD, because before she wouldn't tell a client that, you know, if she missed a call or something, it's not because she didn't care, it's because she has ADHD, but that doesn't make her a worse copywriter. So the thing is, I'm building rapport, you guys. I'm feeling like we need to come out of the closet so that people fucking know. So, you know, neurotypicals need to know that we can work as well as they do, and sometimes even better. And what I tell my clients is, you get the best of both worlds, you know, because you get when I'm not medicated, I'm going to be at my, you know, big creativity. And when I'm medicated, I'm going to be super productive. So you get like 2 in 1, you know, which is very good for copywriting. So I'm proud of it. I'm proud of building reports. I'm proud of letting know each of my clients, because that is building rapport for us. Because how many of us maybe didn't get the job because, you know, oh, he's too ADHD or whatever. No, let's show the world we're good. We're good at what we do. So that's what I'm proud of today.
Fuck yes, Matchy.
Drop the mic.
Yeah. That's going at the end.
Yeah.
But
Sorry,
but yeah, for everyone listening, don't be scared. If you have a business, don't be scared of saying you have ADHD. It is not a bad word. It doesn't define you. It doesn't define how good you are at what you do.
You agree, Waba? Beth, I know you want to say something also to that you were chiming in there.
You're saying to let people know you have ADHD on a couple of levels. One, it's important there are neurotypical people out there who are not neurotypical. They're trying to live in a neurotypical world, like me, like you guys probably. And then also, it was very validating for me watching creators on Twitter, YouTube, wherever, who, you know, are giving great advice and all this and then having times where they have a failing or a problem, and, you know, it validates. It doesn't make me think, oh well, you know, you say that you should do this and that and this, and now look, you failed. It's more validating for me that I can fail too. So, you know,
that's so great. I'm gonna go Leo next. What are you most proud of today?
All right. So I'm prouder that I've started to go just a little deeper on things. Started the that writing cohort that I'm part of, and yeah, just it's been good to kind of dig in. Just do a bunch of like free writing. I do have to go back at some point and like edit it, which is the reason I don't typically do that. If I want to like turn it into anything, but it's been really good. It's kind of gotten me out of my comfort zone a bit, just in kind of a different environment. And it's been fun to surround myself with other writers. That's awesome. A group that doesn't typically get out much and talk to each other because they're all writing.
They're writing.
Because they're writing instead of talking.
Right. And so it is kind of interesting to do like writing as a social thing and like share what you've written. That's a weird thing. Like just reading what you've written to somebody, like that's a weirdly kind of intimate thing almost. Which it seems like it's not that different from like publishing it online for everyone to read, but somehow it is like it is different. But I'm proud of myself for doing it, and really think it's a thing.
That's fantastic.
Is it also wrong for me?
Go ahead, Beth.
I was going to say, is it wrong for me to imagine Leo with some other people sitting at like big wooden desks with parchment and quills?
You'd never be able to read my quillmanship.
Such a Harry Potter.
I love you.
Exactly, yeah.
And also, by the way, truth be told, I am proud of Leo and I so we spoke every day this week for 10 minutes a day. That is the next episode that is going to come out is mental health day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. And we stuck to a fucking schedule as ADHD people. Like, that was great.
Damn.
RJ, what you got? You going to come back? I see the hand on that. He's got to cook his food. RJ, what are you most proud
of? I cook my kids' food.
Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah. So like,
sorry about that.
In the camera, I'm most proud of this gun show I've been putting on. Like, oh my goodness. I've been going to the gym. It's like this shirt feels a little tight.
Hey, you single?
Andre. Waba
it's funny you asked
Waba
because,
for president.
Yes, I am. As a matter of fact.
What are your thoughts on turkey?
What do you?
That seems topical.
Oh my god, I
prefer dark meat. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh god. Okay, RJ, what are you most proud of?
My fiance.
We are the funniest fucking people ever. Hey, what are you most proud of, buddy? Love you.
It's being the dad that I am. And I know, like, this is that episode, right? But I look at the conversations that I have with a 5 and a 4-year-old, and I get to just how much they trust me to come to me when they're crying and talk to me when they're mad at me and trust me when I tell them that we shouldn't do something because you could get hurt. And, I made a very bold decision to leave my job to start a coaching business. And I'm really good at it, but also I get to work my schedule around them so that I get to be there with them when it's needed. And I don't have to give up my time with them. And that's something that is important to me. And if you'd asked me about it 2 years ago, I would have said, yeah, it's important, but I wouldn't have said it's as important as it's become. And when I feel guilty, it's that I didn't give them the presence that I feel that they deserve. But if I look at it objectively, I did. It's just that I can't give them my full presence all the time. And so I feel guilty about that. And just noticing that, like, it's a big thing. So that is
a huge thing.
The dad that I am, and I don't need the recognition that I am a dad like that, even though it is nice and everything.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that, but it's just like, I'm doing this even if I wasn't on a podcast, even if I wasn't, sharing my story on Instagram or Facebook or anything like that. I'm doing this because it's my desire. It's not just my desire, but my dream. Like my oldest, I see my 5-year-old self in him, and I parent him the way that I needed that when I was 5. And so it helps me as much as it helps him, but also, it just makes it that much more rewarding.
I love that. So I am most proud of this. Again, I will say that at the beginning of every single one I'm most proud of is this. But more specifically, Mechi, you actually taught me how to speak my mind. Leo, you taught me how to put my mind online. Waba, you taught me how to have some fucking fun in my life and not care about anything else. And I respect the fuck out of that. Beth, you taught me how to be courageous today. That's what you taught me. You showed up. That's an amazing thing. And RJ, you taught me continuous belief in yourself every day, all day, leads you to how you treat your kids, to what you do well. So I am proud of this topic. At the beginning of the day was really like, I was freaking out all day today, all day. Big surprise, ADHD. I don't do well with things that I don't know, but I feel like I know y'all now, and y'all helped me through this, and that's what fucking matters. Sorry, at the end of the day. So I am proud of, actually just proud of y'all and myself at the same time.
Yes.
Mercedes wanted
Can I
to say
say
something.
something? I just have to say something. I am proud of all of us because I feel like we're breaking that generational trauma we were talking about before, because if we all have something in common here other than the ADHD, is we all care about mental health, and we're all very self-aware of us and what is going on. So we're the first. Maybe we're not the first. Maybe our dads, our moms, they did the best they could. And I know my mom had a very, very hard childhood, and she did her best. And I feel like it's starting with her, but it's also continuing with me, and like we're breaking that generational trauma we were talking about in the beginning, and I'm proud of that. We're seeing that with RJ and his kids, Leo, of course, with his kids too. So yeah. And even if you don't have a child, like maybe I don't know, I feel like I'm never gonna mother because I don't feel it in me, but I'm proud of me because I'm breaking that cycle. Even if I don't have kids, who knows?
Yeah, you don't have
And
to.
it's
That
all
is a lot
online.
already.
Like, that's the thing. Like, you're putting it out where anybody can find it.
Yeah,
Any
Yeah.
kid who needs it.
exactly.
And that's why I think, what we're doing is so important, because it'll be out there for people to find when they need it most.
I know Waba wanted
Yeah.
to say something. Was that not?
Me.
I said Mercedes.
Oh, you're saying. I saw the finger point. Sorry, I can't.
I was vouching for Mercedes.
Okay, gotcha. So Mercedes.
Messi.
This is my entire.
Meg,
I can't read names.
Real quick.
And yeah,
So part of creating a safe space too, I had this conversation with my ex-wife, and we co-parent really well because it comes down to the kids and their health, right? And we talk about being worried about other people, like bringing them down and stuff. And we're talking about safe spaces. And a safe space is allowing them to come with their emotions. But a safe space is also allowing them to feel safe making mistakes.
Yeah.
To allow them to make mistakes and me not fly off the handle that something happened. Because that's learning, that's life. That is something that is going to keep them from thinking they have to be perfect. And they don't have to walk on eggshells. And so just as parents, that's something to keep in mind, that it's not just holding space for the emotions and things like that. It's also holding a space where they get to explore and create and make mistakes. And as I said earlier, I don't have infinite patience. I still have ADHD. I get overwhelmed. But when you have that understanding, it gives you more patience than maybe you originally would have had.
That's right.
And so I just wanted to bring that up too, because that's something that I think we overlook as adults, is how important it is for kids to be able to make mistakes.
What we overlook the most is that everything we're going through, if we can just talk to each other and talk through it, might not be as bad as we think.
Exactly.
You're never alone in the fight.
Right.
Yeah.
100%. Well, I love y'all very, very much. Thank you for getting me through that episode of a lot of words I didn't understand. I talked to Leo, met you, it was funny. I talked to Leo, and I'll cut all this out, but I talked to Leo about it. I'm like, so how do I put this into a sentence? Because I don't understand any other word but the word the. What'd you say to me, Leo? What'd you say?
I mean, I just described it kind of the way I did earlier.
Right, right, exactly. I was like,
but it's like,
I know what trauma means. I don't know what this is, and that's again my fucking privilege is I don't understand a lot, but at least give me credit for trying to learn. Like I'm trying to
Dude,
learn.
you get credit for recognizing the fact. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Like you recognize that it's a privilege, and that's like
It's the
okay.
biggest privilege you could ever have.
Yeah,
in
it's
the world.
huge.
So,
But remember, remember that little boy in the classroom?
oh yeah,
So you copped it as well in a different way, and it's wonderful that we all have different personalities, backgrounds, things like that.
that's the whole point.
Hi.
Hello.
I have something to admit to all of you. Guys, I trust you. I think you're really cool. I just need to come out about this.
I knew that was going to be a joke. I knew it.
I fucking